the most important part of your agency is sales. If you don't have clients, you don't have a business. So you absolutely have to focus on acquiring clients.
All right. Hey, Jake, my man. Nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so Jake, I'm actually starting this new video series on how to start an agency. I myself am a consultant and looking forward to starting my own agency. And so I wanted to kind of interview the experts I know that have their own successful agency. And you came up by Sophia from Search Atlas, which is why I would love to talk to you. So before we actually get into you starting your agency, I would love to know a little bit more about your background. How'd you get into digital marketing or SEO, or what you specialize currently today?
Yeah, totally an accident, to be honest. Got out of high school and said, what do I want to do with my life? And the one thing I knew for certain was I didn't want to pay for college. So I joined the military. And I went and learned IT. I did cell phones and internet for the military for a couple of years. Got out and went straight back into the workforce and built cell towers for AT&T. And the project that I was on wrapped up. And so they're like, we don't have any more work for you. Sorry, it's not a layoff, but it is. And I need a new job. And looking back at my career, I kind of had all of the markings of a project manager. So I recompiled my resume into a project manager role and ended up getting a job at a small marketing firm specializing in the hearing care industry. And so I started working there just as a PM, making sure projects happened. I didn't know anything about marketing, but I really liked it. I was really enjoying the stuff that we were doing, and I thought it was impactful and just interesting because there's kind of no wrong way to do it to a degree. And so over the next 18 months at that company, I taught myself on the side. So anytime a project would come in, if it was small, update this thing on our WordPress site, I'd log in and do it. Or, hey, we have this new letter going out. Can someone add the graphics to it? Okay, I'll do that really quick instead of sending it over to the graphics team. And after about 18 months, my boss realized that I kind of knew everything that was going on and could do everything as a generalist. So I ended up becoming the creative director for the agency. And through none of my fault, there was some things at the company that happened. Company kind of fell apart. Found myself with this new skill set I didn't realize that I was building at the time, just having fun learning it, and changed my resume up once again to be a marketing specialist. Got a job as a marketing specialist at a company, and that was kind of the beginning. I've just always really enjoyed marketing as a cross section because there's so many different elements that go into it, from creative to analytics and math to human psychology to graphic design to coding. It's just a really all-in-one sphere that I don't think too many people can actually wrap their heads around and do. And I could. And so that's where it all began for me. And then a couple years later, I realized I didn't like having bosses. So I put in my 2 weeks at the company I was at. And I had evaluated my position there and said, look, Jeff, I know I'm leaving, but here's another piece of paper. This is my new agency. I wrote you a quote to do everything I'm already doing for you at a much reduced rate. You'll be my first client. And he took it.
Love that. So wait a minute. So how long ago was that? From the time
that was 6 years ago I started this agency.
Okay, so 6 years ago you started this agency, but so it was about maybe 8 years ago when you started at that one other agency that became your first client?
Yeah, about 8 years ago I had started with them. I've been doing marketing now for 11 years, going on 12. So
Love that. Love that. Okay, so that's a lovely story of how you started your agency there. So I'm curious, like, what made you go that route? Like, I know you said you didn't want to become, you didn't want to enter a boss, but I mean, what else was that inspired you to go on your own? Because it could be scary, right? I'll admit, like, it could be.
Yeah. No, it was terrifying. But there was a lot of advantages for me. One, I'm a good at kind of self-motivation. So I knew that if I was working from home, I could still keep myself on task and get the work done. So that fear wasn't there. But it would give me freedom, right? Too often in the normal workplace, for me at least, it was like, you have to get approvals. Oh, I have to go pick up my kid because of well, is that time off? What is that? And like every business is a little different, who's flexible and who's not. But I wanted to have that freedom. And also what I found was that if I focus on one project too long, it gets stale for me. And so just working for one company was really, in a way, burning me out by not keeping me interested. And so with a portfolio of clients, I was like, maybe I can work on 3 to 5 clients and kind of bounce day to day and keep myself fresh on a regular basis.
Got it. So, I mean, again, so when you started on your own, you actually were lucky enough to get your first client, which was your previous employer. So how did you actually expand your clientele?
Yeah, great question. So at that point in time, my real expertise was in kind of basic web dev, WordPress, stuff like that, and SEO. I was somewhat proficient in ads. I would never say I was an expert at any point in my career, including today, but the basics of digital marketing. I knew it fairly well. And I had some odds and ends like creative design and mail and printing and stuff that I also had in there. So I said the most obvious route is, what does everyone need? Everyone needs websites now. So what I would do is I would find local businesses that I found interesting. I would do a analysis on their website, and I would put in a nice envelope. I'd get all sharply dressed, and I would literally walk in the front door and I'd say, hey, I've got a website report for the owner. And what I found out was that most of the administrative staff would just let you in. They wouldn't ask questions. Okay. And so they would just walk me into the boss's office and I'd be like, hey, you don't know me, but I do marketing here locally. I like your business. I consume your product, whatever it is. I just did a website report for you. Here you go. Check it out. If you want to do something with it, I can definitely help. If not, no harm, no foul. And I do like a couple of those a day, maybe 15 a week, just driving around to local businesses. And I got my first set of clients that way.
Wow, that's pretty creative there. I love that. I got to try that on my own. I mean, I'm curious which industries or like stores that kind of like let you kind of walk in compared to ones that kind of like held you back.
Anything that was more corporately structured was harder.
Okay.
So things that were easy were like, I worked a lot with bars and distilleries because I love craft cocktails and things like that. So that was a really nice one to work with. Home services like landscapers, home renovators, they were pretty easy to get into. Like local retail chains that weren't big box, those were good to get into. I didn't do as much work with the restaurant industry. They are very cheap. And so most of the time, it just didn't work out. So.
Got it. I love that. So when it comes to when starting your agency, I'm curious, like, are you focused on a certain niche, or are you kind of just looking your niche is local businesses? Because you kind of give a variety there. Are you actually kind of like what's your focus on your current agency?
Well, my agency has gone through some evolution over time. When I first started, I was like, I'll take who I can get. I was working with like local lawyers and accountants and all kinds of stuff. And then I found that I had a particularly effective methodology for landscapers. So I actually made a second brand for my company called Landscape Web Pros. The website's still there today. And I focused only on landscapers. And that was really where I scaled my agency up for the first time. I got to the point where I needed 2 employees and had a decent amount of client lists to the point where I couldn't handle them all myself, and was really niched into that and thought that would be my cash cow forever. And it's sour point to the story, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but I found out that there are just some industries where the clients aren't great. And landscapers is one of those accounts where we would go 30, 60 days non-payment. They'd be hard to reach. And then when they did reach you, they were mad because they weren't getting leads, but they were, but not like, the killer lead that they were looking for. And so I actually pivoted back out of that specialty, went more general. Now we serve almost everybody. We have a couple no-go areas that we've learned, like, hey, we can't help people in these industries, so we stay away from them. But in general, we're pretty agnostic of industry at this point.
Nice. Love that. So when it comes to like actually tools that you use, I was actually reintroduced to you through a friend of ours, Sophia of Search Atlas. So she mentions that, hey, I was wanting to speak to other agency owners, and she mentioned your name. So I would love to know and see how does Search Atlas play within your agency?
So our agency, we do 3 things now. We had a much larger list. We've actually cut it down, which is another piece of why we were able to scale, because we were doing too many things. But for our offerings right now, we do websites, SEO, and paid ads. And that's really it. Which is why we're so agnostic of industry, because everybody can kind of use those things. And we're known for our SEO packages. We have a tremendous success ratio in that space. And so Search Atlas is actually a really, really core part of our stack for that. We were on SEMrush for years, and I just didn't feel like it was helping my agency. Like we needed it, but there wasn't anything that it was doing for us to make us better. It was just another tool in the toolbox that we had to have, like having an email account, right? And so Search Atlas is a big part of our tech stack on the SEO side. On the web dev, we build on 2 platforms. We're working on developing our Shopify team right now, but we've historically built on WordPress. Our agency has built over 350 sites on WordPress. We also utilize a new one called onepage.io, which is like a smaller competitor to like a Squarespace or a Wix, but it's built by SEO experts. So it's really, really, really friendly for that. And we build like 10-page or less sites on there. And then from the paid ads side, we really don't have any specialty tech that we're using over there. We could get into something like a Hyros or an Ad Beacon, but haven't really felt like we've needed to hit that mark yet. So
when it comes to Search Atlas, like what are some of the features that you use probably the most? I'm curious because I'm a user myself, so I'm curious I want to see what other agency users are using Search Atlas, so I can kind of take advantage of that myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm all over the place in Search Atlas. I use a wide variety of their tool sets, from the GSC performance tab to get like a better, more helpful view of the Google Search Console, to keyword analysis tool. You can do the Site Explorer tool, which lets you kind of spy on a domain. We also utilize the competitor analysis tool when we're doing an initial onboarding just to see where things are at. And then, of course, the content creation tool is extremely robust. My team is in there all day, every day, generating new content for clients. And then lastly, of course, Auto, which makes technical SEO a dream to do. So
yeah, Auto is probably my favorite feature in using tool at this moment. But I do want to get into the content side because I have actually not used it yet. But I hear that people are using it really well. I mean, what's the best part of using that? I mean, like than other like content optimization tools like that are out there?
Well, the first thing is that their content creator versus using something like ChatGPT or Claude is not a one-step process, right? You put in a prompt in ChatGPT and that's it. Search Atlas has a customized, I think it's 19-step process to generating content. So it's utilizing 19 different prompts over a workflow to actually help you create content that's far more structured for SEO, much more in depth, very optimized. Sometimes it's goofy, but that's just AI. Not going to blame that on Search Atlas. But if you're looking for like, I just want to be an editor and not have to write a ton of content, it's amazing for what it spits out before the editing process.
Oh man, I definitely got to check that out with some of my news sites that want to create content around. So when it comes to like results, like say using like Search Atlas with some of the tools that's been helping you, I mean, has it been saving you time? I mean, have you been seeing some results for your clients? Like what kind of results have you been seeing?
Yeah, so from a business side structure, we're very, very streamlined and optimized. We have a very specific process. What we sell is very structured and commoditized. So when we bring in clients, there's no mysteries on our end. We're not running around. We're not doing guesswork. We're not, missing tasks. We have it very structured, and Search Atlas is a key part of that, the content creation. From an external side or a results side, Neil Patel put out a analysis because he runs Uber Suggest, so he has a lot of vision into a lot of sites. And he did an analysis of 162,000 sites that are actively managed by SEO managers. And what they found is that the average per annum growth rate is a 2x. So if you were doing 1,000 visits in January of 23, by January 2024, you're doing 2,000 visits. Okay. We're averaging that level of growth, the 2x growth, in about the 5 to 6 month mark. And per year, we're doing about 3 to 4x.
Wow. I mean, I haven't used Search Atlas that long yet, but I have been seeing they have a cool forecasting thing where like, it looks like I'm gonna be doing just that. But yeah, that's some great results you have there. I can't wait to see how that's going. All right, so for those that want to start an agency, like myself, I mean, again, I'm a consultant. I'm looking to start my own agency. What would you say were the top 3 tips you would give me and the audience of like who wants to start their own agency? And it could be anything, like things to look out for, whether it's like cost, hiring, when to start. Let me know.
So I love this question, and I love answering this question because no one ever sees my answer coming, which is your product doesn't matter that much. And I know that sounds ridiculous to say because you're selling it. But when you're starting an agency, the most important part of your agency is sales. If you don't have clients, you don't have a business. And a lot of agencies that I've seen over the years focus a lot on their process, a lot on their tech stack, a lot on their deliverable, but they don't actually focus on scaling their agency to a point where doing all of that is comfortable and even enjoyable from a revenue perspective. I made that mistake myself. I can say that firmly. So you absolutely have to focus on acquiring clients. The second piece is still not your product. It's customer retention. And surprisingly, performance and results don't impact retention as much. We did an internal study on ourselves. We took 12 months of data, looked at all of our clients, and what we found was that there was almost no correlation from performance to retention. What we did find was that retention correlated to customer success activities, meaning communication, sending reports, regularly checking in, taking an interest in how other parts of their business are doing. Those things were what were retaining our clients. And while you're focusing on sales to get clients, if you don't retain them, it's really, really hard to grow. So from an agency perspective, if I were to go start again, I would have the simplest product ever that I know that we can deliver, even if we don't know what we're delivering entirely, that we could come up with that in a 2-week span, I would focus all of my efforts on getting that initial wave of sales and then building a team that can retain customers longer over time. Those would be the first 2 things I would focus on.
And a third?
Oh, a third. Yeah, absolutely. Third thing, and this is something you can fix later. Okay. This isn't something you necessarily have to start off with, especially if you're a 1-man or 2-man shop. This is going to be difficult. Okay. But creating a deliverable structure. Huh. So our SEO package process, we know every week we need to deliver 3 pieces of content, and we need to deliver, 150 to 250 technical optimizations, and we need to deliver a weekly report. That's absolutely has to happen. So we have a task tracking board that automatically puts those in there based off of our clients and the packages that they have, so we can make sure that we're getting all of the work done. And each piece of that has its own substructure that's highly repeatable, meaning that if I hire someone new, I can sit them down with my tech. They spend a week with them and they know exactly what they're expected to do every single week, every single task. There is no mysteries. Wow. And so by doing that, you do 2 things. 1, you make your product consistent. And 2, you are able to scale effectively.
Love it.
Which is a difficult thing. Obviously, you need more sales for that to happen, but scaling effectively removes a lot of frustrations down the line, because there are checkpoints you'll hit as an agency. I got stuck at 18 grand a month for a long time. And it wasn't until I optimized some processes internally that I was able to kind of push past that marker. Same thing around the 35,000 mark. I had to optimize some things. I had to get a bookkeeper at that point, and really make everything on our side almost brainless. Not that we're not bringing our brain to the table for the SEO, but that the work, the expectations internally were very simple, straightforward, and outlined.
Wow, some great information there. Thank you for so much sharing that. So if people want to get a hold of you, get a hold of your digital agency to learn about more about your company, even maybe possibly hire you for their business, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, 2 great ways to do that. First, my website, thewizard.marketing. We just rebuilt it, so let me know what you think. And then second way is I'm very, very active on TikTok. So you can find me at The Wizard Marketing on TikTok if you want to just get a daily drip of great tips and SEO and marketing news. It's a great place to hang out.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.